So welcome to our video. We're going to show you how we restored the roof to our Austin 7 Ruby. You can see the picture on the left there is what we started with, and the picture on the right is what we ended up with. So we took basically the roof section, the wooden part here. You can see we've got the metal frame that goes above the wood section, and there's also a track which the sliding roof part runs on. We had all of that in place, which was handy. But basically none of the materials, none of the wadding, anything like that. So you can see here we've got the wood frame basically out of the car first of all. It screws lots of screws from underneath inside the car, so we undid all of those screws from underneath, and the wood section just lifts straight out, so that was nice. We've sanded it back, we had a bit of woodworm in it, so we've given it a treatment to help preserve the wood and deter the woodworm. So next we've got the sliding section. This is the piece that slides backwards and forwards. It's above the driver and passenger's head in the closed position, and then slides back across that back section when we've got the sunroof open. So as you can see here, we've removed all of the screws. Some were easier than others to get out, some had to be drilled out in fact. So that's allowed us to get access to the wooden frame beneath. And we cleaned the metal section. You can see standing up there against the garage window. We gave that a good clean up and paint. The wood we then gave a bit of a sand off, cleaned it up, got off any pins and whatever, and gave that the same wood treatment that we gave the main frame. And that's allowed us to just give it a bit of future proof. And you can see the section of wood on the left in this picture here. So that was a brand new piece of wood, so that's a nice piece of ash that was specially bought in from Martin Pryor and Sons over in Hereford, and it fits perfectly in with the other pieces and allowed us to complete the frame there, so ready for the next stage indoors. So here we've got both sections indoors on the table and some hessian to cover it. So we've got here the hessian just covering the back section, giving it a quick test fit back in the car. You can see how we've used the hessian to cover not just the wooden frame, but that metal piece that screws on top of the wooden frame. We've got that covered all in hessian, and it fits quite nicely back in the car. So then, back indoors, and we've finished covering the hessian over the very back section there, and pinned it all in underneath. We're now also, as you can see, covering the sidebars going from the above the passenger and above the driver's heads on the left and right of the car. We're covering them in hessian too. The reason for using the hessian is that when we cover this with the fabric, eventually then this will just help give it a smooth edge over that metal strip, and should help us get it looking quite nice. So now you can see we've finished covering with hessian. We've actually covered the piece at the very front, the piece on the very left of this picture here. So that's the piece that goes above the windscreen. That doesn't actually need to be covered with hessian. You'll see in the later pictures we've actually removed that. You see my staple gun there on the table. We used a staple gun to secure this hessian to the frame. We've now cut some wadding to go over that back section there, so that's just to aid with a bit of insulation, so that when we're travelling we don't get like a drumming effect on the fabric that we're going to lay over the top of all of this. So the wadding is cut there, and it fits quite nicely between the wooden struts. That's the way we've cut it. So now you can see we've got the fabric that's going to finish this, cut to roughly the right size to give us a good overlap, and some calico that covers the top of the wadding there. There are some instructions online which suggest to use the calico on top of the wadding before the final fabric, so we've just followed that. It's not terribly expensive to buy, and it does give us the best possible finish, I guess. So that's it, basically they're ready. The calico and the wadding are not connected in any way, they're just held there until it's flipped over. So now we've got it flipped over on the table. Everything, the wadding, calico, it's all held in place underneath the fabric. So the fabric we've secured there, you can see we used some clips just to hold it roughly in place. We pinned it to the metal frame, and we used gimp pins, black gimp pins, to just tack it in. We tacked it in as close to the metal frame as possible to give us a nice tight fit, so that when it sits back down in the car, it's sitting quite low down and fits quite nicely back in the hole from where we got it out of. And now you can see that we've just finished tacking it in all the way around. And you can see on the far left of the picture there, the bit that goes above the windscreen, it's just the plain wood. We've not put any hessian, any fabric, any wadding, anything like that on that part of it. That just stays as it is, and we've just tacked the fabric as best we can around the opening there as well. So here's a view from the top side, and you can see there we've got it reasonably good. It's not perfect, but looks quite nice. And here it is in the car, and you can see the imperfections there, but it sits really nicely down in the hole, ready to be screwed in later. So that's the bulk of the wooden frame now covered. So we can then move our attention onto the sliding section. The sliding section slides on a track which screws on top of this piece, which is in the car at the moment as in the picture. So the track screws to the top of this and allows a sliding section to slide back and forth. So let's turn our attention to that. So here we have that sliding section. So we've painted the underside of the metal frame here, the black frame, as you can see in the picture. We've screwed it back onto the wooden frame, and we've covered it with some wadding to go in the gaps, and then covered those wadding strips with the calico. And again, the wadding and calico are there just to reduce the drumming effects of wind, rain and such like when we're out using the car. So now we need to get it covered with the fabric. So the fabric is exactly the same as what we use for the large section. It's from a company called Woolies. It's an exterior grade leatherette type material, which withstands hot sunshine in the summertime. So you can see here that we started by tacking the leatherette fabric to the rearmost part of this, and then pulling it reasonably tight to cover the front bit, which will be where the windscreen is. So here we get a better view of that front edge, which goes above the windscreen. So you can see the pot of glue here. We've used a liberal amount of glue to keep that fabric nice and tight to the metal frame, and also to make up the corners. It was suggested that we use a liberal amount of glue to make them up too. And the idea here is that we keep the fabric nice and tight. And you can see here it's pinned into the leading edge of that strip of new wood there on the underside, so we can glue it, pin it in nice and tight there, and that keeps it out of the way of the track. When this is running back and forth over the track, it's not going to be fouling, and it was suggested to be the best way to make up this part of the roof section, which we have done. Now, of course, the fabric needs to be attached on the sides as well, and there are wooden strips running front to back, and you can probably just about make out the one on the right hand side here, just outside of the clips where the runner is gripped, and this slides back and forth. So again, we use gimp pins to secure the fabric into this wooden strip on either side. The gimp pins were a little on the long side, so we just shortened them a little, and a couple had to go in on a slight angle, but it's all hidden from view, this part, thankfully. So that finished it off quite nicely, and that secured the fabric in on all four edges basically. So now you see the finished section here, and let's take it out to the car and see how it looks on the car. Right then, so you've seen the pictures on how we assembled the roof with the hessian, the wadding, and we've put this nice black vinyl over the top. Now the whole wooden frame now sits inside the car, and it sits in a channel. We've got the metal strip that we can have, which is inside the car. We're going to screw up from underneath to secure the wooden frame down and in. We've got a little bit of tidying up to do to get it to fit in there nicely. Now we're going to sit it all on a bead of flexible roof sealer. This is just one we use for our garage roof. We've got a couple of tubes of these for fixing leaks. So we're going to set a bead of that all the way around the outside, which this is then going to screw into and hopefully form a nice seal. That's the idea. And if you take a look on the upside here, basically this metal strip, the track, it's got holes in it, so we're going to have to, this is not the original one for the car because the holes aren't already drilled ready for it in all the places. We've got one here which is already drilled, one at the back, but then you've got like 3 more holes in the track, so we're going to have to just drill through those 3 holes to get screws in the right places. But that's fine, we can do all of that. It screws along there as well, which is nice, so that'll all sit nice and tight. Down at the front here, now we've looked at a couple of other Austin 7s, and they've got like a lip that comes up which the roof sits into, like a weather seal. We haven't got that, we've just got a straight piece of metal here, and we've got no screw holes in it either, so I'm guessing this has been repaired at some point before it was resprayed by the previous owner. So which is what we're going to have to do. There's obviously that wooden bar at the front, we're going to just screw through 3, maybe probably 4, so we have to just make our own holes there, space them out, and screw down into there. So we bought some nice chrome slotted screws. I'll show you those. We've got a bag full of these, so they're going to look pretty much original. We'll get those in there, 3/4 by 6 screws. We'll get those in, and that will hopefully have it all down there. So let's put the section in finally. So let's get it around the right way. Running shape. This is now on its track. We can slide it down, and as you can see there, it all finishes off quite nicely. Now when we're done, we're going to have this track on the inside. This is the original, and there's a screwing mechanism goes in the corner above the driver's head, and there's a screw which clamps on this, so you can set this as it moves back and forth. You can set it in all the different positions, and hopefully it don't feel like it's going to move much by itself, but that will just ensure that when you're driving along, the roof don't open itself up. So that's how we've restored the roof on our Austin 7 Ruby. I hope you found that useful. If you need to do the roof on your car, then hopefully this will be useful for you.